something that's, I feel, very relevant given just the slew of celebrity deaths lately. I mean, they tend to go in streaks anyway, but this one has been insane. I'm pretty sure everybody can agree on. But, yeah, the topic I'm going to talk about is, why is it that we as a society, why are we so affected by it when celebrities die? And I feel like there's a lot of different reasons. Some fit other people more than others, but it sort of falls into two camps, the fans and the non-fans, but it seems like ultimately they do affect everybody on some level or another, but hopefully I won't forget all the stuff that I was thinking about with this topic last night when I decided I should probably make a video about this, but there's something on my face. No, it's a freckle. Okay, sorry, but yeah, so I was thinking about all the different reasons that they seem to affect us as deeply as they do. And I was kind of brainstorming on this. I wish I'd jotted them down into a list, but I didn't, so I'm gonna try to go from memory here, but obviously, when you're a fan of somebody, especially when you're an obsessive fan, you have them up on a pedestal. It's basically hero worship. I mean, there's better ways of putting it, but what it boils down to is you view them as a legend. You have them up here instead of viewing them as human almost. And when one of them dies, especially suddenly, it's sort of a wake-up call that they're mortal. I mean, I feel like this actually goes for non-fans as well, because you don't really stop and think about them being a person so much as celebrities are almost like a different kind of breed to a lot of people. I mean, obviously we know on some logical level that everyone's human, but when it comes to famous people, you'd be surprised how many people forget that. And when one of them dies, especially one that's been deemed legendary, they suddenly topple off of that pillar that they've been put on. And it reminds us that they're mortal, they're just human, just like us, and not even they can escape the reality of death, that everybody is going to die. Literally, everyone, there is no escaping it. It sucks, but that's life for you. I feel like another factor of this is also that we get caught up in sort of keeping track of what certain celebrities are doing. Then when suddenly one of them just dies, especially with no warning, it's like almost sort of like a reality show that got the plug pulled on it with no warning. It's just like, but I was watching that. Wait. No, you can't be dead. I mean, I was invested in that. It's a weird sort of way of comparing it, but I feel like that's the one way I've been able to break it down, to explain to especially my youngest sister on this very topic. But yeah, I know a lot of people are just like, why do you care? It's not like you've even met these people. Why do you let it bother you? And it's not just me that gets bothered by them. Tons of people. I mean, for instance, let's take the death of David Bowie for a perfect example here. Just look at the outpouring from literally everyone, okay? I don't want to hear it that, well, you didn't even know him, so why do you care? I'm pretty sure the grand majority of people didn't personally know him, and yet he, through his work, was able to touch everyone's life in one way or another. Even if you weren't personally that big of a fan, or even a fan at all, I think most people could appreciate him on some level or another for what all he did for music, for even just making it okay to be different. There's a lot of things here, but I'm kind of going off topic because this video isn't supposed to be specifically Bowie-centric. It's a broader topic than that. But anyway, I feel like some of it is also that while they're here, you tend to take them for granted, and just sort of in the back of your mind, you just assume that they're always going to be there. You don't really think about it too hard, and most people don't particularly think about them day and night unless you're one of the obsessive fans, but that's its own separate thing. But you don't really give it too much thought until it goes and happens, and then you're devastated because you realize that you took for granted while they were still around. You may or may not have gotten to see them in person. You may or may not have gotten to actually meet that person. You may have never even so much as written them a fan letter to thank them for whatever impact that they've had on your life, and it sucks, the reality of it being so final that you'll never get to meet them. You'll never get to say blah blah blah, whatever it is that applies to you, and that hurts. And sorry, it's just an awful feeling knowing that it was one of those things in the back of your mind that you had intended on, but never got to actually do, and now it's too late. Of course, there's also a whole slew of other reasons why they affect people so deeply. I feel like a lot of them, especially when it comes to fans, we do get invested in their lives, and we feel like, on some level, like we know them, even if we've never personally met them. We feel like, through their work, through their interviews, through their movies, through whatever medium it may be that they worked in, we feel like, on some level, we sort of knew them, in a way, and for how deeply they enriched our lives through their work, that there was definitely a connection there, even if they never may have necessarily known you personally even exist, but yet they still had a huge impact on your life. It's a huge, tremendous thing that's really hard to try and explain what it's like to somebody who's not that sort of a fan, or somebody who just doesn't get it, but, yeah, and to have that person suddenly ripped away, it's like losing one, it literally is losing one of your idols. And I feel like it's also sort of a reminder, well, I think I already touched on it earlier, that just, it's a reminder of your own mortality when these things happen, and for a lot of people, especially younger people, sometimes it's their first sort of experience with death, because maybe they haven't experienced it with a loved one yet, or anything, maybe not even so much as a pet, and sometimes it literally is their first encounter with losing somebody, even though it was somebody they may not have personally known, but somebody that they felt like they did. I actually fall into that, camp, because the first one that really hit me was Linda McCartney, but, before I lost any relatives, but that's beside the point. But, yeah, it's a very weird thing, and there's a lot more that goes with it, too. Again, using David Bowie as an example, he helped a lot of people find themselves just by being as different as he was, and by making it okay to be different, in any sense of the form. There's a million different ways you could spin that, and I don't feel like going into all of them, but he basically gave a whole generation, maybe even 2 or 3 generations if you look at it, really, but gave them permission to be themselves in a world where it wasn't necessarily okay yet to do that. And even for younger fans, in a world where it is more socially acceptable nowadays, sometimes it's just a matter of not being brave enough to be yourself yet until you find somebody to look up to that way, who basically more or less tells you it's okay, even if it's not on a personal level face to face, but through just their existence, through their example, basically gives you permission to be yourself. And there's a lot to be said for that. Gosh, there's so many other things I wanted to touch on with this, and I'm kind of drawing a blank. I really wish I had made that list when I was brainstorming these, but yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are empaths. They feel very deeply for other people, even people that they didn't necessarily personally know. Like, I'm also one of those. I found myself thinking, oh my god, this has to be so horrible for David Bowie's little daughter. She's only a teenager and she just lost her daddy. And I know I'm not the only person who thinks that way, and again, he's definitely not the only one that this applies to. This can apply to literally any celebrity whatsoever who is past or will pass. You could fill in any name here. They all work, and it just depends on you personally and which ones you pay attention to. But, yeah, there's that. There's, gosh, I'm trying to remember all the things. I'm trying not to babble too much, but there's so many things I want to say on this topic, but wow, give me a minute, okay? Trying to remember where I was going with this. Because I was gonna do this in the two camps of fans and non-fans, and then I realized that it kind of does match up the same for both on a lot of levels, so I guess I can't really do it that way, but, maybe I did run out of things to say. I know I had more of them than that before, but, yeah, I think the bottom line is just that you form an emotional connection to these people through their work, through their examples, and it does hurt when they go. It is like you've lost somebody, and especially when you're a big fan of somebody, it's a much bigger loss. I mean, an example for me was Davy Jones. I cried for a month straight. You mentioned his name, it still hurts to this day, and that was 4 years ago. But, yeah, it very much does affect people, and for every one person that I've encountered who's been like, why does it bother you? You didn't even know them. I could point out 10 others who get it because they're that way too. Maybe not with the same specific people, but there definitely are ones that affected them just as much. And it sucks when you watch them start to go. I mean, realizing your heroes are all eventually going to be gone. I mean, for me, unfortunately, that'll probably be sooner rather than later because I'm into very old fandoms. Like, the youngest of my obsessive celebrities, I mean, is probably Liza, and she's turning 70 in a couple of months, so that's not very young. So, yeah, but, it does suck, just the reality that there will be a day when you do not share a planet anymore with that person, they're gone. Any chance you had at meeting them, any chance you had at seeing them in concert if you didn't see them, or even if you did, seeing them again, future projects that they would have done, gone, because they are gone. It really, really sucks. I mean, even for ones that sometimes they hit hard even when it's somebody that you didn't realize you liked as much as you did until after the fact. And I realize it sounds very vulturous, but a good example of this that I personally witnessed was when George Harrison died. And prior to that point, especially online, I swear it seemed like almost everybody was either a John Lennon fan or a Paul McCartney fan. There's a very, very small percentage of George Harrison fans and an even smaller percentage of Ringo fans, and at that time that was the camp I fell into, but I digress. But, yeah, I'm Team McCartney now. But anyway, the day George went, and this never reverted back afterwards, the grand majority of the fandom, suddenly, everybody, oh, George was always my favorite. You lying sacks of crap. No, he wasn't, but not everybody's a George fan now, and I figured that'd be like a short-lived thing, and no, it just stayed that way. So I don't know if it was so much a fact of people being vultures and just jumping the bandwagon so much as that it gave them an opportunity to really look at and appreciate his work when it probably more likely than not just got overlooked for the longest time because they never got around to looking at it prior to that and then realized how much they appreciated it when they finally did look at it. And that's probably why it never reverted back, just people appreciate him more now that he's gone, which sucks that he did not get to see that, but that's often the way, especially with bands. It seems like people don't appreciate them until either they're terminally ill or until they're already gone. Take your pick. But it sucks that it's that way, but that pretty much always seems to be how it works out. I have noticed in many, many fandoms at this point now. And on some level, it bothers me that they do that, but on another, I can't say that I'm not surprised. And when it genuinely is just that they neglected to really look at that person's work until that point and then realize that they actually do genuinely really, really appreciate them, it makes a difference, and then it's okay in my book. But when they're doing it just to jump the bandwagon and be relevant, that's fucked up. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, it's a weird topic, I have to admit, especially when you stop and look at it. But on the other hand, it just, for me personally, it's always been so normal because when I latch on to somebody, I don't let go. That's it. It pretty much is a lifelong thing for me, but probably because I didn't really have any personal role models in my life on a personal scale, so I was always looking up to celebrities for any sort of, I don't know if guidance is the right word, but found myself looking to them because I didn't have the positive role models in my personal life. So watching them slowly now beginning to fall, it hurts, and I, for the longest time, kind of thought I was the only one that took it as personally when it happens as I do, but no, I've since found out over the years that a lot of people take it that hard. And I think it also, on some level, like, gives your subconscious permission to explore those feelings of loss and of morbid curiosity, of thinking about what happens after, things that you typically try not to think about too much unless it's relevant at the time for some reason. But, like I said, most of the time it's not relevant until something prompts it. And I think all of us on some level have some level of curiosity there, and it sort of opens the door on that conversation and on that curiosity to be able to ask the questions either of somebody else or just in your own introspection, to think about these things and try to process it, because it's a lot easier to try and process it when it's like a basically one removed for being a celebrity versus somebody that you actually knew. And although there is still very much a sense of loss, obviously it's not as personal a loss as it would be as if it were, say, a parent or a grandparent or something, or a friend or what have you. But it does let you process grief and learn to process how exactly to cope, and gives you sort of like a crash course in coping, I feel like, anyway. Like I said, it is a weird thing, but there's just so many different facets to why it hits people the way it does and why it affects so many people when these people that we admired their work of pass on. And not to mention, there's the whole level that sometimes it's like a name in the news that you may not have even necessarily heard of, or if you did, you didn't really know what they were famous for, and it's sort of like an introduction to the highlights reel of their career. And I've actually known quite a few people who became fans of people through their passing because it was on TV at the time, and they just never gave the person a chance while they were around until that, not really out of any sort of intentional shunning of them, but just there's so many celebrities in so little time that they just never got around to it and didn't realize that it'd be somebody they'd be a fan of until that happened, and there was something that prompted them to look more deeply at their work. And I don't know where I was going with this, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's a funny thing. And even more so when certain ones seem like they affect literally everybody across the board, and then other ones, it gets like a little blurb, and that's it, and it's forgotten about. And I feel like it's so unfair to that latter camp that's just it, and probably nobody's going to talk about them again. It's just done. It's over. And an example of a recent one of those, I feel, is pretty relevant, was Lemmy from Motorhead. I mean, it was mentioned everywhere for about a day, and then dropped, and pretty much nobody mentioned him again. And because he's gone, there isn't exactly going to be any new projects to put his name back out in the news, so that's pretty much it. Then David Bowie goes, and he's getting a constellation named after him. There's a new planet that may or may not have anything to do with the timing of. There's pretty much Bowie tributes everywhere. It just... I mean, I realize he was a much bigger star than Lemmy, but it's just one of those things where it's like, that has to suck for Lemmy's family, though, you know? I mean, to see what a big reception David Bowie's getting, whereas he got a little blurb and that was that. And a very small period of time where he was trending on social media for about a day. But yeah, that said, Bowie's work was much more encompassing than that of Motorhead. But I am not here to judge, I'm not here to compare, that isn't the point of this video. Don't get me even started on Alan Rickman, so... But yeah, it's just weird why certain ones get made out to be such a big deal and then other ones are basically swept under the rug, and that's that. But yeah, if any of you guys have more thoughts on your personal opinions of why you think it is that celebrity passings affect everybody as deeply as they do, I would love to hear it in the comments, especially if it was one that I missed, because it may have been one of the ones I came up with last night and then forgot about when I started filming. But, yeah, I'd like to hear you guys weigh in on this and your thoughts on the topic, because I'd love to have an open discussion about this. But, anyway, that's about all I have to say on this topic for now, since it never did come back to me what all else I had to say on this, so I'm just gonna wrap this up and upload it. So anyway, as usual, my old sign off. If you like this video, click the like button. If you're not already and you'd like to be, click subscribe, leave comments down below. Until next time.